That's Flight of Void and Journey here on the X-Rocks. My name is Randy, and we're going to do just that tonight. We're going to take a 2-hour journey through the music and memories of our friend Nasty Nate Smith. So Nate Smith was an important part of our music community, and he was also a dear friend to so many. His music, I've said this before, but his music and the band Flight of Void is literally the reason I grew such a deep passion for local music decades ago and still do this today. Nate and his band Flight of Void mean a lot to me. I saw them open up a Free X show with Edema over 20 years ago at the Big Easy, before it was the Knitting Factory. And I instantly knew there was something special there. I was blown away by this band. Now, I was in high school at the time, right? And I got on this, I think it was an AOL message board with the band. And I was looking for a copy of their first album. It was kind of harder to find. And Nate drove his old van, the Shaggin' Wagon, to the 7-Eleven at the corner of Ustick and Maple Grove, because that's the neighborhood I grew up in. So he drove out to meet me, this high school kid who was just a fan. And when you think about it, the time and the effort and the gas money and everything that it took for him to get out there, he didn't have to do that. There was nothing in return for him. I think I even tried to give him money for the CD and he wouldn't take it. And that's the kind of guy Nate was. And in that moment, I remember how kind and generous and lighthearted and fun-loving he was. And that's exactly how Nate was through the years of interactions I had with him at weddings, in the recording studio with the band, at his house for band practice, during jam sessions, at shows, and so on. That's how Nate was. That's how I remember him. So coming up here in a little bit, we're going to hear a song from that very album that Nate gave me at that 7-Eleven, a whole bunch of other music, and some memories from his bandmates and friends here tonight. Nate, this is all for you. We miss you.
The best in new and local music. Exclusive. From 100.3 The X.
I remember I was probably about 17, I would say. Maybe I was 18 years old. And one of my really good friends, one of my best friends at the time back in high school, was telling me about a guy that he worked with at Albertsons named Nate that I really had to meet. It was a super cool dude that was really into music, had an awesome truck I had to see, and just somebody that I had to meet. That weekend, they were going to be up at Bogus Basin, and we were going to go up and meet him. So the weekend came, and evening time, we're shooting up there, flying up Bogus Basin Road to go meet Nate and some other people that are up there doing whatever they were doing. We're almost up to Bogus, maybe a couple miles from the top, and here come these headlights, and we pull over, it ends up being Nate and some other people, and we all jump out and start chatting, and I see Nate's in this really cool mid-'80s Ford Ranger that's a pre-runner built with, multiple shocks. It has stickers all over it, multicolor paint, red, white, and blue. It apparently had raced in the Baja 500, and he had picked it up, and this was his daily driver. So I'm looking at this truck, and I'm a gearhead, so I'm totally into it and asking him all kinds of questions, and just this thing's rad, and talking to Nate, and he's just this super cool dude. And so I end up kicking his girlfriend out of the truck. She rides down with somebody else, and I end up in with Nate and flying down Bogus Basin Road. He's got 2 10-inch subwoofers, one behind each seat, and it's a regular cab pickup, so you're scooched way up close to the dash, but you just got this bass thumping in your back as we're flying down the road and yelling back and forth, talking about how cool the truck is and music. And somehow we got on the topic of, we got to start a band someday. And Nate's, I'll play bass. And I'm, okay, I'll sing. And we're just talking out our butts at that point because neither one of us had done anything in bands or music, anything at that point. So we continue talking and become closer and closer. And he ends up basically becoming my best friend for the majority of my adult life, really. And during these conversations, it ends up we decide we're going to do this. And so we go and borrow a bass guitar and a bass amp from my parents, because my parents growing up, we had a bunch of musical instruments around. If we wanted to play them, we were a musical family. So we lend this to Nate, and he just starts teaching himself how to play bass. And as more conversations go, I meet another person at a party who ends up being a drummer. His name's Grant Link. And he says, I know this guy named Fahad who plays guitar. Maybe we could get together at some point and make a band. So I'm thinking, okay, cool, let's do this. And I tell Nate. Next thing I know, Nate picks up his own first guitar, an Alvarez, bright orange sunburst Alvarez guitar, and a little bigger bass amp than the one that he was using of my parents to learn how to play bass. And he goes and hooks up with some guys at a country band to learn how to play bass guitar. So here's Nate trying to figure out how to play bass with these guys in a country band. And a few months later, we finally all connect to get together and jam on this band that eventually becomes Fly to Void. And it was just such a serendipitous moment of meeting Nate, kicking his girlfriend out of the truck, riding down, having this conversation about music, and randomly saying, we want to be in a band together someday. And we actually made it happen. I've got a tattoo on my back for the band, that we were in, Fly to Void. And Nate was such a huge component of my life and all these memories that I've had that just absolutely touched my heart. And he's an amazing, amazing man that will always mean the world to me. And I miss him every day. And for everybody that ever had a chance to connect with Nate, just how amazing he was and how much he's going to be missed.
You're picking me up when I was falling.
My brother and I, we grew up across the street from Nate, way back before he was known as Nasty Nate. We got all kinds of great memories together, but we were both in a band together. Nate and I both played trumpet. He was way better than I was, but we liked to have fun with it. And one day we were driving down Capitol Boulevard. I remember my mom was taking us in the station wagon, and Nate and I, we stuck our trumpets out the windows and we played da-da-da-da-da-da, all the way down Capitol Boulevard. And I don't know, we thought it was really funny, and I'm not sure if my mom thought it was as funny, but it was all good, and good times with Nate. It was a lot of fun, and he was such a good guy. Or one time we weren't up to anything good really, but we were driving my mom's station wagon kind of late at night and maybe early in the morning, and it was way before we should have been driving, I believe. We were going pretty fast and fun and having a good time, and boy, it's hard to say enough. He had some great parents, and they let us have room to live, and even some things that were probably risky, and I can't imagine doing it myself as a parent. So we had some good times. Nate, and thinking about you, man.
Why don't you let it go?
I'm Rick. I was Nate's friend for 30 plus years. I met him in high school in a study hall, and it was all about music in that study hall. We just listened to music, and that's really how our friendship started. A very core memory for me and for our friendship. Yeah, I thought it would be easier. So it was going to the Rage Against the Machine show in '96. And it was me and Nate and our friend Jimmy D, friend Jerry, friend Robin. I believe our friend Pete was there as well. And Big J always talks about this show, how it's infamous, and people tell you all the time that they went to it. They didn't really go. But we got the ticket stubs. And we also have, there was the Idaho Statesman did the Scene back then, right? Every Friday would come out with the Scene. Well, the Friday after the show, the cover of the Scene was a picture from, I don't know if it was from one of the buildings or on top of the wall of the penitentiary, but it was of the crowd. And you could so clearly pick us out. That was awesome. And I know Nate even has that scene somewhere stashed at his house that we'll eventually find. But the story goes that we went there, it's 96. I was probably only 18. Nate would have only been about 20. And a couple of us had fake IDs, so that was pretty cool. But as we're watching the show, Nate gets in the middle of it, and he comes back out to the outskirts to where we're standing, and he's only got one shoe, and he's like, man, I lost my shoe. And it was just so hilarious because every once in a while you'd see a shoe kind of dancing around. Somebody would throw it, and it would throw it. It eventually ended up on stage and got kicked to the side, but every time he'd be like, dude, there's my shoe. And he ended up leaving the show with just one shoe, and that was it. Like, we talked about that story of him and his shoe for years. And it's kind of funny. We were over the other night and talking with Melissa. And she was telling us about this weird thing that he does where he'll be lounging around the house and he'll just pull off one sock, and he'll just be lounging with the just one sock on. And I don't know, I was thinking about it. It's like, maybe he's honoring that show. And he's just remembering his shoe that he lost at Rage Against the Machine. I had another good one that I thought of. It was, we were heading to Los Angeles for those guys to record their A New Thought CD. And we had the big brown Man Bro van, and we had loaded up a U-Haul trailer with all the gear. And we had to go through Twin Falls and play a show at this place called Bare Bones the night that we left. And we needed to do that because we needed that money to help us with the hotel and the gas and everything that was going to take to get there, that is. And Nate was sick. He had the flu. We get down there and he stands up there and he plays that show, and you would have never known that he was sick. And we stay the night, we get in the van the next morning and start heading down through Nevada. And that guy laid in the back of that van like a mummy. He was a back sleeper, and he would lay in the back of that van just tucked into the sleeping bag with his arms crossed on his chest like he was a mummy. And he laid there I think it probably took us 12, 14 hours to get down there in that van. And then when we got there, he just kind of popped up, snapped out of it, and he was ready to do rehearsals and ready to do recording. He just needed that one day sleeping all the way down, I guess.
She is so broken up, deep inside.
Hey, it's Jay. And I lost a friend the other day. One of my good friends, Nasty Nate Smith. And Nate's one of the kind of guys that enjoyed everybody around him, welcomed everybody around him. And it showed in the fact that when he was a bass player in the band Fly to Void, even his grandparents came to the show. And how many musicians do you know where the grandparents come to the show, the aunt comes to the show, all the family members come to the show? That's always a sign of a person that's a rare find. Nate, you are my hero. It's people like Nate that allow you into their family and treat you like family that makes you appreciate life.
It's G-Rat, dude, from Fly to Void. There's been a lot of memories flooding back over the last week or two, and we can't help but think of the good times. But a few like standouts for me were one of the times we were down in Hollywood, like doing some recording and stuff, and we got invited to a party in the Hollywood Hills. And I mean, we were like young kids pretty much, you know. We go to this party and it was kind of crazy. And the drummer from the Pretenders was there, Martin Chambers. He was like hanging out. Our manager was there with us, and he was kind of telling us who was who and things. And Nate ended up talking to this guy for a while, and the guy's like, you know, asking Nate what his name was, and Nate's introducing himself to him as Nasty. And the guy's like, what? And he's like, Nasty. And the guy's like, what? And he's like, Nasty. And finally, like, I think the third time or something, the guy was like, oh, nasty. Like, we all freaking laughed our asses off over that one. But another one, like, that really stands out to me just really quickly was we had all taken a New Year's Eve trip up to, like, McCall area. And a whole bunch of us had rented a cabin together. And some folks came in from out of town. And one buddy brought a guy with him that we really didn't know too well. And we were like kind of hanging out in this house, you know, playing cards, and this guy was like sitting at the kind of bar in the kitchen area, and he's leaning over, and like this dude's crack is totally hanging out, and we had kind of been amongst ourselves quietly like making comments and laughing about it throughout the night. And finally at one point, like Nate just like he went for it, dude, and he like decided he was going to take this wooden spoon and like just shove the handle in this crack. And the rest of us were rolling, and it's been one of those things that we've laughed about for freaking 20 years after the fact. So really just a solid dude, man. I had some of the best times of my life with him, and really sad that he's gone, but really appreciate all the outpouring of support, and Rest in peace, Nasty Nate.
100.3 The X rocks.
That's Educate, Fly Away here on the X Rocks. My name is Randy. That is Flight Avoid's first album right there, and Nate's bass lines really shine in that song. So we're doing a tribute show in honor of Nate Smith tonight, Nasty Nate. And over 20 years ago, Flight Avoid was on Cage Match here on the X, and Kaleo was the host at night. I was in high school. I was in my room. I recorded that Cage Match on a cassette tape on a boombox. And here it is.
Cage Match 100.3.
Cage Match, two bands. You decide which one you like the best. 287 100.3. The CD, A New Thought. The record release party this Friday, 7:30 at the Big Easy. Tickets are only $5. Why aren't you in?
You're an idiot.
You have to do that. Here's your champion. It's Fly to Void. Representing 208. Respond, the name of this one. Enjoy.
Cage Match on 100.3 The X.
New Rock, 100.3 The X. It's your Cage Match. Fly to Void. Record release party for A New Thought. Tickets are $5. And yeah, you're going to want to go on Friday. Tomorrow, the Drunken Ticket Gorilla will be out. Your shot at picking up some tickets, you'll have to listen to Melissa. And she'll let you know how you can walk away with some Fly to Void tickets. Or you can just pay $5, you freaking cheapskates. It's a freaking concert. You're getting music. It's $5.
Stream online at xrock.com. 100.3 The X.
Well, I have too many stories to even recite, but one of the most recent probably is just a few years ago. We're sitting around a fire having a couple brewskis, and Nate, the man of obscure music, who knows every album of every person in the world, you would think, just added about 70 songs to my playlist. So I was super surprised when we're sitting there and an epic song comes on. This Must Be the Place by the Talking Heads. And he's standing there, silent, listening, and says, "Dude, what song is this? Dude, Mertens, what song is this?" And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And I was just unbelievably impressed that the man who knew so much knew so little. So much so that when he's getting ready to leave, he texts me from the driveway and even says, "Dude, send me the link to that song." For like the next 3 days, that's all I listen to. That's a great one. That, Brass Monkeys, VW Wine Tours.
My name is Dale Cannon. I've been Nate Smith's friend, well, my whole life. I came home from the hospital as a baby, and he and my brother were playing in his front yard because we lived right across the street. And, we hung out ever since. Man, I remember it was about 20 years ago, he and I went on a camping trip up to the Middle Fork of the Payette, up to the Moon Dipper hot springs, and the idea was to camp and then fish the next day. Well, that night, we got hit with like the biggest storm I've ever been out in. And it rained hard all night, and we thought it was coming right down on top of us, the lightning and the thunder, and didn't get an ounce of sleep. And then, of course, the next day the river was flooded, and we couldn't catch anything. And it was just a miserable time, but because I was hanging out with Nate, it was fun. Yeah, I wanted to go again. That's just kind of the guy he was. We love him, and he'll be missed.
Weekends always rock on 100.3.
It's your friendly neighborhood G-Rant again. Continuing on this story path, just thinking back to some funny stuff. We used to like go camping back in the day once in a while in the summertime and stuff in Idaho. And I remember one time we were camping at Warm Lake. You know, sun went down, beautiful setting, beautiful campsite. Nate showed me how to make rocket fuel out of a campfire. Kids out there, don't try this at home. But he poured like white gas in a red Solo cup, only a little bit, like maybe a quarter of a cup worth, and threw it into the campfire. There were multiple tents around our campsite. And let me just say, what happened next was unbelievable to me. I've never seen anything like it, but the flames were probably 15 feet high, and it basically looked like the tail end of a rocket shooting up from the ground. And needless to say, those that weren't awake in our camp were after that event. So kind of a funny deal. There was one thing that like always struck me about Nate. Like, this dude had a drive and like a perseverance for things, especially when it came to music, where like once his mind was set to some things, he was going to follow through. We were getting ready to play a showcase at, I think back then it was the Big Easy, now known as the Knitting Factory. Our management had set up a record label showcase, and we were playing a show, and Nate had gone camping like the day before or 2 days before or something, and I think he was like carving a hot dog roasting stick that he found near the campsite, and turned out that stick was poison sumac, and he had like this massive allergic reaction to the stick, you know, that he ingested this hot dog from, and he swelled up crazy, and I mean, to the point where like his eyes were swelled shut and his fingers and his, you know, he was in bad shape. And we were leading up to this showcase, and he was just like, screw it, I'm going to play the show. And like, the dude could hardly see on the stage. His eyes were so swollen shut. And like, he got through the show, man. I don't know how he did it. Like, I think the rest of us, Jake and Fahad and myself, we're looking at him through the show like, is this dude going to make it through, or is he going to like, you know, are we going to have to stop, or is he going to collapse on the stage? Like, it was pretty incredible, man. Like, I mean, it was one of those situations where he wasn't feeling it, but he knew what we needed to deliver on, and he still did it anyway. And like, I don't know, man, just a testament to the guy's kind of will and perseverance to get through it, man. Pretty crazy stuff. Cool stuff.
I think my favorite thing about Nate will probably always be how easy it was to have a good time. There was no real like heavy expectations. It would just be get a hold of him, be like, hey man, what are you doing Friday night? And you just show up, and it would turn into him cooking awesome food that he just learned about off Food Network or something. And it would turn into a night of a lot of good beer and song for song, back and forth, just listening to music and showing each other new bands. You know, that's how I found stuff like Hum and Failure and, you know, Jawbox, just really cool stuff. And he was just so relaxed and easygoing, but like also just lit up. You know, it'd be like, we're going to go do bar trivia. We're going to go do disc golf, whatever. It was always easy to have a great time with Nasty Nate. I'm going to miss him and love him forever.
The wind under my feet.
Hey guys, it's Big J here, part of this amazing tribute to Nasty Nate. And, you know, I just want to first say condolences to Nate's close friends and family. It's tragic, obviously, but, you know, here to just talk a little bit about Nate and, you know, the beginnings of Flight Avoid and my own career parallel one another in a really, you know, amazing way. And it's a time that I fondly look back and reflect on. And Nate was one of those guys that he just was so authentic and genuine. And he always seemed to, you know, be in a pretty good mood and wanted people to have a good time. And he wanted you to laugh. And that was what he was all about. And it was always just, you know, whether you had to protect yourself from some savage nipple twisting or whatever, it didn't matter. He was always there to have a good time, but, you know, also to be your friend. Like, you could tell Nate anything. And it just was one of those people that just made your time hanging out that much better. And we spent a lot of time hanging out, obviously, JT Toads, you know, and Eastside Tavern, and all the times we would hang out at the old Busters to just, you know, things you look back and are happy that you got to spend that kind of time with people. And so I wish that it hadn't been so long since I've talked to Nate. It's been too many years. And so I regret that. So I would say to Nate, his family, and to the Flight of Void family, you know, Jake, Grant, Fahad, you know, Rick, Jay, all the guys that were close. I love you guys. And I don't want to not say that. And this is a very difficult time, and this tribute is amazing. And it's just sucks that we have to have it. But I love you guys. I love you, Nate. We know you're playing somewhere. And, you know, as far as him being a musician, by the way, he was amazing. The stage presence was incredible. He could play in multiple different kinds of styles. And it just, you know, just, it sucks. So I just wanted to say I love you guys. And Nate, wherever you are, thank you, man.
100.3 The X rocks.
Hey, g'day, how's it going? This is Fahad from Fly to Void. One thing about Nate, I think a lot of people really didn't know, and I'd kind of like to give it a mention because I think it's, looking back, it's like really, really incredible. So when we started playing as a band, I'd been playing guitar for a while, and, you know, Grant has been playing the drums for a while, and like, so coming into the band, like, we had some experience, I guess. But Nate, like, he was brand new. Like, he started playing the bass because he wanted to be in the band with us, and you know, with his good mate Jake, and we just got along really well, and so I think a lot of people just didn't know that. Nate kind of started from scratch when we started as a band, and for the music, for us to write together and perform together, and even, like, you know, at the beginning stages of a band, you play covers and stuff. It was just a natural. He picked it up so fast, and even with the writing process, like as a you know, a new musician to the instrument, just had really great ideas. He found himself around the fretboard really well. Really had just that soul and that groove just in his blood and in his heart. Looking back, you know, we always were impressed and just like stoked for him, you know, as a mate and as a bandmate, as a musician. But looking back, it's really, really bloody incredible what Nate did as a musician with Fly to Void in the beginning, and then obviously, you know, throughout our career. Listen to cartoons and listen to the bass line. The bass line is so laid back and chill on this song. It's like the perfect representation of Nasty Nate as a person. Just laid back, chill, groovy. I don't know. He had so much love for everybody and his family. So when you listen to this song next, just listen to the bass line. If you know the words, sing it as loud as you can. Nasty Nate, what a musician, what a bro. Yeah, love him to death. Cheers.
Your mind is a camera, eyes closed, into tension.
So when my mom couldn't come to this camping trip that me and my dad went to, and I had my favorite food that night. It was pesto. I was out with my Aunt Juju and Uncle Michael, and I was in the tent with my dad, and my dad just heard me like making weird sounds, so I threw up all over him. It was all at 3 a.m. to like 4 or 5 a.m. So I don't think any of us got sleep that night. The nightgown that I wore that night, he washed it and it didn't come out, so I had to wash it again. And it was disgusting. So I was at my best friend's Raylan's house, and I wasn't used to sleeping at other people's houses, so I would cry. I woke everybody in the house up. And then they had to call my dad to come and pick me up like 3 to 5 a.m. in the morning again. But at least I got picked up. I guess I just like being around my parents.
Join me, Rock 100.3 The X, this Friday, May 17th at the Big Easy Concert House as Boise's own Flight of Void releases their new CD, A New Thought. Thought, the new CD from Flight of Void. Be the first to hear it this Friday night at the Big Easy Concert House. Doors open at 6:30. Show starts at 7:30. Get tickets at the door this Friday for only $5. This is an all-ages show, full bar with ID. Flight of Void with special guest and fractional importance. If I could only $5 at the door and you're in. The CD release party for Flight of Void's newest offering, A New Thought, this Friday night at the Big Easy Concert House with New Rock 100.3 The X.
Just because you're not in the band doesn't mean you're not in the band.
Exclusive on 100.3 The X.
I am one of the luckiest people to have had Flight of Void in my basement that had no soundproofing whatsoever. I got a private show every week, but my favorite part was listening to the 4 of you down there, and I heard everything. The chemistry you guys had, the humor, I laughed the whole time you guys were at my house. I loved it. And I love the friendships that I've built myself with each one of you and how much I love all of you. And I'm just thankful for that time that I had. I just want to say how blessed I was to have the last 20 years with Nate. The memories we made is the biggest hearted, most patient, loving man. The world's a little darker today without him.
One more time, Nasty Nate on the bass. Hey, it's Randy from the X here, and I just want to say real quick, the beautiful thing is that Nate's legacy will live on forever in his music. Think about that. The music will be on Earth longer than any of us will be here. And that legacy is not just the music, but who Nate was as a person and all the amazing memories we have with him and because of him. As you heard all these incredible stories and memories of Nate here tonight by his loved ones, his friends, and his family, those who knew him. There's a lyric in this song that says, I'm holding out to see you again. And Nate, we will see you again, friend. Rest in peace. We miss you. Here's to you.
What did the farmer say when he lost his tractor? Whoa. Where's my tractor?
Tonight's show is in honor of our friend Nasty Nate Smith. Thank you so much for being here tonight. We're going to post the whole show at xrock.com, so it'll be out there in the world forever, just like Nate's memories, his music, and his legacy. Here's the original copy of the original song that started it all. You're on the X. I'm out.